It's a good question. If you're sitting on $825 million and you can pay your workers a $5,000 raise right out of the gates, is that something worth considering? I'm just asking the question as we start a Friday morning. Welcome in. Happy Friday, a red Friday across Kansas City. Thanks for joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. We do have your last chance at Guns N' Roses tickets next hour. Kendall Gammon's going to be here. Get you all set for the game this weekend, taking on the lowly Bears.
Woo!
Oh, man, oh, man, oh, man. Now, UAW strike is ongoing. You could have more strikes taking place today at noon. So we'll see what Sean Fain, the UAW president, decides he's going to do in the next few hours or so. It would be 11 o'clock our time. So we'll be watching closely during the Ray Stevens show. Yesterday, I'm perusing the news on this UAW strike, and of course now it's having an impact here locally. You've got the 2,000 workers at the GM Fairfax plant who have now been temporarily laid off because they were accepting parts. They do accept parts from the Wentzville, Missouri plant, which went on strike last week, and basically they have no work to do. So you got 2,000 people out of work here at the GM Fairfax plant, and the downstream effects on that, restaurants, diners, places like that help feed these men and women, they now have their businesses being impacted as well during a time when nobody, frankly, can afford to have their businesses impacted. So I bring this up because I'm saw this clip on Newsmax yesterday where local Chapter 14 president Tony Toddy in Toledo, Ohio, was on Newsmax, and he was asked, I thought, a pretty good question. Hey, you guys got almost $1 billion in a strike fund. What if you just dish that out to the employees as part of, compensation? And I don't think that's a gotcha question. I think you want to talk about greedy. I mean, I don't know, sitting on $1 billion, pointing fingers at other people is greedy. It's at least worth a conversation, is it not? So here's how that back and forth sounded on Newsmax yesterday with Tony Toddy, UAW, local Chapter 14 president in Toledo, Ohio.
And this is something that's a little confusing to me. The UAW has like $825 million in its strike fund, but they're only paying the workers $500 a week to strike. Why don't you guys give them the salary that you're asking the automakers to pay with your huge strike fund?
That's not how this is set up. And I mean, that's,
Clearly.
a bit of semantics, but, that's, we put that aside so we can weather the storm to get a good contract. That's what this is. So, that's cute, but that's not what that's for.
All right. That's cute, he says, but that's not what that's for. Okay. And he's kind of stumbling around and it is, I will admit, by the Newsmax host, a bit of a straw man argument. I'll give you that, right? But it's the same argument that they make on their end when they say, well, the CEO's making $30 million a year. Like, it's the same kind of argument. So if you don't like the argument of, well, you guys are sitting on $800 million, how about you pay some of that out? Okay, fine. That's not what it's meant for. I get it. I can understand that. It's a little bit of a straw man argument. But on the back end, it's also a straw man to say the CEO's making $30 million. So if you don't like straw man arguments, don't use them to try to garner sympathy from the American public, which, by the way, is not working.
That's for
Well, you're
us
asking
to
the
get a
automakers to
good
pay
deal.
it. Why can't you guys pay it in the short term?
Because that's just not reality. What we ask the employers to do
Clearly.
is what we're asking for is reality. These corporations look at Stellantis behind me, $12 billion a year in 6 months. And they're doing that from hiring in temporary employees at $15 an hour and keeping them at that wage for 7 years, is the worst offense that I heard out here. That's 7 years of not being able to put into a 401k. That's 7 years of not receiving the big profit sharing checks that Mary Barra says all her employees get, but they don't. Our contract's been out of whack ever since the bankruptcy. and these companies can afford to pony up at the table.
All right, that was Tony Toddy, local Chapter 14 president, UAW. Maybe next time, one of us are looking for a raise, we'll go into the boss's office and say, I'm asking for reality. What the hell is that? Reality? I'm asking for reality. Reality? What do you want? Are we negotiating a potential raise here? What are you looking for? High demand reality.
Boom, boom, boom.
What the heck's reality? I mean, this is all emotion. All of it. We told you yesterday about the president of General Motors who wrote a letter in the Detroit Free Press and highlighted a lot of what's, being offered here. They would get 85% of the workers to a median salary of $82,000 a year. The plants are located in zip codes where the median household income is $51,000 a year. So you're talking about making 60% more than the median household income in the zip codes that these plants are located in, right? I mean, I like when people lay out data. I like numbers. It makes it easy for me to digest. It takes out the emotion. And I've yet to hear somebody who is on the other side of this, whether it's Sean Fain, the president, or local Chapter 14 guy Tony Toddy yesterday on Newsmax. I've yet to hear him lay out the argument without emotion, without straw men, on why these companies should be capitulating to every single one of their demands. As we sit here, 4.5 hours away or so from potentially more strikes. I don't know if Clay Como is going to be next. I have no idea. I mean, Fairfax can't be next. They're already out of work. They're already, striking, laid off temporarily by GM, whatever you want to call it. They're not working. And you could have thousands more at Clay Como potentially, depending on what happens today at 11 o'clock local time. But I sit here and I say to myself, I want to be sympathetic. I want to be sympathetic for all workers. I really do. These are tough times. We have a middle class that is shrinking rapidly in this country. And it's horrible for America as we continue to grow the wealth gap. And by the way, COVID put that on steroids. COVID made our wealth gap grow even faster. Between the haves and the have-nots and what's happened to the housing market, the middle class all-American dream is dying rapidly in this country. But unions are not going to save us from that. Not in 2023. They're not. All they're going to do is continue to build that wealth gap, artificially pay some people way more than they're worth, screw up the marketplace for vehicles. I mean, the average person going out there and trying to buy an F-150 right now, what's the base level on one of those? $65,000? It's out of control. We've gotten here because of government overreach, too much government involvement, too much government spending. And if some of these folks had their way, we'd just be doing more of that. So I want to see a robust middle class in America. We desperately need that. But if you think unions combined with the government is the answer, you haven't lived through the last 30 years. It's not. And it's not going to be. 913-408-7710. 6:13 as we kick it off on a Friday morning, a red Friday across Kansas City on KCMO. Bottom of the hour, we're going to be joined. It's an early conversation, but a very important conversation with the Kansas City, Missouri Police Chief. Stacey Graves is going to be here on KCMO Talk Radio. Yesterday we just questioned some of what we read in a local outlet about violent crime prevention. And to the chief's credit, her staff wanted to clarify some of that, and we are always happy to do that. So Stacey Graves, bottom of the hour, we'll get to you. And also what Sean Fain said, the UAW president, about Donald Trump, right? So all this talk about who's really for the worker, who's in whose back pocket, we'll tell you what he had to say coming up next on KCMO. So in case you're wondering, and you just need confirmation, by the way, that UAW is in the back pocket of one side of the political aisle, I'm not saying every single one of you that work at Clay Como or Fairfax fit this billing, but just, kind of know where your leadership is at. Shawn Fain, UAW president, we could have more strikes coming up today at 11 o'clock Central Time. You may have heard that Donald Trump, instead of going to the debate next week at the Reagan Library, is going to be doing a rally in Michigan with a bunch of UAW workers. So Shawn Fain, president of the UAW, released a statement. And here's his statement about Donald Trump's plans. He said, every fiber of our union is being poured into fighting the billionaire class and an economy that enriches people like Donald Trump at the expense of workers. He says we can't keep electing millionaires and billionaires that don't have any understanding of what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck, Fain wrote about Trump, and struggle to get by and expecting them to solve the problems of the working class. That is from Shawn Fain, UAW president, on Donald Trump. The same guy that is complaining right now about wanting cost of living increases, which, by the way, I understand. Look at what's happened in this country the last 3 years, is somehow suggesting that Donald Trump is a problem for working people. Compare the last 2.5 years of this administration to Donald Trump's 4 years in office, and if Shawn Fain can find any way to make a data-driven case that these last 3 years have been better for working people than Donald Trump's 4 years, then he's even a bigger hack than I realized. He's even more of a sorry excuse of a leader than I realized. Are you kidding me? I mean, I get it. You're a union mob boss and you think the Democrat Party is looking out for you. By the way, where's Shawn Fain on the flood of illegals across the border who could come in and replace his workers, in a heartbeat? Where's he on that? I'm sure there would be some folks who would love to take those jobs and, wouldn't join his cult to do it. I just, that's the part I don't get. This guy who has not been living in reality for the last several weeks, now with Donald Trump expected to go give a speech in front of UAW workers next week, he's like, we need people that live paycheck to paycheck. Who, like Bernie Sanders, who was a, worthless private citizen until he started leeching off the federal taxpayer, and now he's got 3 homes? Like that? Like Joe Biden, who spent 40 years working for the government off the backs of the taxpayer and now is worth tens of millions of dollars thanks to his bagman son? Those are the people that are, they really know the working class. Do they really, Shawn Fain? That's what you want more of in this country? That's where I can't, I'm for the worker. But these people are not looking out for the worker. They're not. If they were looking out for the worker, they'd have an opinion and they'd be pushing back on the fact that this administration is, first off, flooding the country with cheap labor. Besides the fact that there is major national security issues there, they're flooding the country with cheap labor. They're pushing EVs on these companies, despite the fact that the marketplace, generally speaking, is not there yet. They're basically forcing them to invest billions and billions of dollars in this, whether they like it or not. And then they got the audacity to scream, what about the worker?
Right, and even no support system for this demand that we build the autos. Right?
Yeah.
No place to charge them yet.
Well, exactly right. Yeah, have fun driving 3 hours down the road and then sitting there for 4 hours to charge the damn thing. That's not that I really had a lot of respect to lose for the guy, but that's certainly the icing on the cake. Tim's in Liberty. What's up, Tim?
Hey, Pete, how are you today?
I'm well, Tim. What's going on, my man?
Hey, I'm not a union guy, so I'm hoping that maybe one of the union guys that are listening can kind of call in and explain. Those of us who aren't part of this are trying to understand. Because, if you work in R&D or a mechanic or a machinist, there's a certain level of skill set there. And I totally understand that maybe you're trying to negotiate making more money, but, they've got these lines simplified to a point where, you got one guy that all he does is put taillights on the back of a van. So you're trying to tell me that you need to stop production in the entire country and we all have to bow a knee and lose businesses because all the people bringing parts in to these guys. They're non-union.
Mm-hmm.
So we're all having to wait here so you can get a 40% increase and work 32 hours. I hope this fails. I hope that we break this union because this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And, Tim, you're just a working stiff. I can tell, you got a decent head on your shoulders, and I know, and this is anecdotal when I say it, but, man, whether it's through this show on the phones, the text lines, social media, the sympathy is just, it's not there like I thought leadership probably expected it to be from the average folks in this country.
Absolutely. He is totally out of touch. I hope the unions are the guys, the actual people doing the work, the guys showing up today at Clay Como. I'm hoping they're going, you know what? We need to fight back on this. This guy's an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Because all these 7 million illegals that this guy's helping fund, hey, man, I can pay them $8 an hour, and they'll come put the tail lights on.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I mean, you're right, Tim. Thank you. I mean, that was a large part of my point, too. Man, you got to know. You want to talk about fair? I mean, when you got a 20-some-odd% raise sitting on the table in front of you, in this climate, in this economy, with where things are at in that industry, by the way, where the average worker can't afford the sticker price of a new vehicle made by one of these companies. At least not, a pickup truck. Maybe you can afford one of those, little 4-seat cars that no one can fit into. One of those things, right, that none of us can fit into anymore. I don't even know who gets in those cars, but those little things. Maybe you can get one of those at the sticker price on like a 5-year loan or something, but, the average person can't do it. 40%. And then Sean Fain's like, Trump's, we need someone like Grandpa? I mean, come on, man. You got to be kidding me. I know we want to live in a world where everything, people we disagree with politically do has got to be the worst thing in the world, but I can't fake outrage over the Senate changing its dress code. I don't get me wrong. I think it's embarrassing that this guy from Pennsylvania, John Fetterman, is walking into the U.S. Senate in a hoodie and gym shorts. Like he literally just got out of, bench pressing 2 1/4 10 times. I don't get me wrong. I think it's embarrassing, but I have not lost an ounce of sleep over it. I don't care how these senators dress. I mean, they've been screwing the American people for decades dressed in suits and ties. So a guy wants to wear gym shorts and look like a buffoon. At least, he's dressing the way he's treating me, which is like crap, That's kind of how I look at it. But I'm not like, oh, they got to wear a suit and a tie. What are you doing? Put on a suit and a tie. Why? It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to how they vote. That's all I care about.
It's just a loss of decorum, Steve, a loss of decorum, I guess, that I'm partly to blame for back in junior high when I untucked my shirt tails. Kind of began as a ripple effect back in the 70s.
Gosh,
young man.
You started the whole thing, didn't you?
Well, me and some friends. Sure,
oh, gosh. Well,
it is all gone to, wearing a handbasket.
Well, Joe Manchin, Democrat in West Virginia, he is circulating a proposal to reestablish the Senate's dress code, which Chuck Schumer loosened over the weekend, to allow senators to wear whatever they want on the Senate floor. And it's really meant for one guy and one guy only, and that is this guy, John Fetterman, who does not want to dress appropriately on the Senate floor. And I'm seeing a lot of people on social media, yeah, go Joe Manchin, woo, yeah, Joe Manchin. I'm not going to cheer on Joe Manchin because he wants John Fetterman to put on a suit and a tie. Joe Manchin was the deciding vote in the Inflation Reduction Act that has done nothing but cause inflation. I'm not going to give him a pass on that, which has in large part driven up costs across the board for the American people, and then be like, well, he's trying to get John Fetterman to wear a suit. I don't care what John Fetterman is. I don't give a rip. All I know is that, whenever the guy gets up there and tries to speak, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, like this against Marjorie Taylor Greene.
What do you say to that?
Well, her platform, really, she runs on more and more ding-a-ling, picks, on in the meetings over in Congress. So I'm not really sure why she cares how I dress, but she really takes it a different way.
Marjorie Taylor Greene runs on ding-a-ling pics, according to John Fetterman. I find that a lot more offensive than I do the guy, looking like a bouncer showing up to work.
Wow, today I just heard that differently for the first time. Is it PICKS? Pics?
I don't know.
I don't know or PICS.
PICS.
Oh, okay.
Ding-a-ling pics?
Okay.
I
did not infer until just now going, what is that?
Now you know.
Has Fetterman seen her ding-a-ling pics, or what's going on here?
I don't know. I don't know.
Now I'm concerned.
He's the guy rocking gym shorts. We're more likely to see his ding-a-ling pics than anybody else's. I'll tell you that.
Touche.
Oh, my goodness gracious.
This dress code thing is the business of the people, though, if you're in student council, right?
When I was running for 8th grade treasurer, dress code was a big part of my platform, This is child's play. I can't believe that so many, right-leaning folks are outraged over what Fetterman wears. I'm more offended that we live in a country where the guy can win a race when he can't speak because he had a stroke. And I feel bad for the man. He had a stroke. But gosh, you want to talk about things to be outraged over? This is not one of them. If Roger Marshall shows up in a polo today to work, okay, fine. He goes to the Senate gym. He talks about it on the show. I'm sure, he looks fine. What these people do and how they dress is the least offensive part of their job. So I'm not going to manufacture outrage over it. If you want to, you can do it at 913-408-7710. We got news coming up, plus Ron DeSantis was on this station last night. Oh, please. Stop about the erosion of standards with the dress code in the Senate. These people have no moral standards. I don't care about their dress code standards. All right? Why? See, here's the thing. It's like the old question of if somebody showed up at your front door and they were a total, schmuck used car salesman, but they looked really nice. Would you feel better about that because they dressed well at your front door? Or would you be like, get out of here? At least if you dress based on what you are, I kind of respect that. So I don't think there's any standards left in the U.S. Senate. So why would I care if they dressed that way? Maybe I'm alone on that one, but I'm not buying into it. No way, no how. Happy Friday. It's a Red Friday. Welcome in. Thanks for joining us on KCMO Talk Radio. So people ask, well, they've been asking, I guess, the last couple of weeks. Text line, social media. Hey, Pete, come on now. It's September. Year before a presidential race. We got these primaries, these debates. You got to talk about, well, what's there to talk about? Seriously, what do you want me to talk about? How Donald Trump is blowing out the field by 40 points? Whether you like it or not, there's not much to say right now about any of these races. Joe's, for as long as, until he says otherwise, he's running again. And then on the flip side, it's like you can manufacture storylines or try to, but it's Donald Trump's nomination to lose. He's up 40, 50 points in some of these polls. He's not going to be at the debate next week. Instead, he's going to be with the UAW workers in Michigan. So we'll get into that here coming up on KCMO. But there's not much to say. So I'm not going to, I got a 4-hour show here every day. I'll mention it when there's something relevant, but there's not a lot to break down or analyze right now.
We're getting down to 96 hours, Pete.
There's nothing there. There's nothing to analyze right now. It's Donald Trump's. It's Joe Biden's. Now, maybe something happens in Trump's legal cases that changes the equation. Maybe Biden decides he's stepping down. Gavin Newsom continues to make his presence felt. And by the way, he can actually speak, so that's kind of a welcome change. Not a lot to say. That being said, I'll give you something here on this, because last night on this station, Ron DeSantis joined Mark Levin. And I'll play this back and forth for you here between Mark Levin and Ron DeSantis, which aired on KCMO last night. And this is case in point to my point on how there's nothing there. And I like Ron DeSantis a lot. I had huge hopes for the guy. But it ain't working. And this is an example of why.
I notice you run on your record. You don't run from it. You're very proud of it. You've accomplished a great deal in 6 years as governor. And I'm not trying to create a controversy of any kind, but I also noticed that Nikki Haley, who was a governor for 8 years, does not run on her record. Am I missing something?
No, I mean, I don't know really necessarily what the record would be. I think clearly with what we've done in Florida, we came in, had a big agenda, executed it. I mean, illegal immigration. You know, we did ban sanctuary cities. We did E-Verify. We sent people to the border to help Texas. We've cracked down on sex trafficking, human smuggling. I have boats in off our coast, interdicting boats coming in from Haiti with illegal aliens. We transported 50 illegal aliens to Martha's Vineyard. And so we've been leaning in on that issue, which is one of the most important issues facing our country with all the nonsense that's going on down there now. And so that'll be a day one issue for me as president. You look at education. We got the indoctrination out of the schools. No gender ideology, no critical race theory. We have universal school choice. These are things that are really, really significant and that have led the nation. And so we've not been a caretaker governor. We've actually leaned in on some of these issues. And, you know, all these Republicans, I think every single Republican who's running has criticized me for taking the fight to Disney regarding the gender ideology in the elementary schools. I mean, we had a situation in Florida where we said, and I'm a father of a 6'5" and a 3-year-old, so this is something that's sensitive to me and my wife, and we have a lot of sympathy for other parents out there who are raising kids in an environment where the left wants to shove their agenda down their kids' throats, and we think that that's wrong. So we said in Florida, no anything about the sex or gender ideology in schools, particularly for these younger grades. You know, Disney fought us. We got it enacted, but then they came and tried to get the bill repealed. They were threatening to sue over it. And so we fought back against them. I mean, we got to draw on the line in the sand with respect to these kids and make sure that parents know we're going to be there. And I know Nikki Haley has taken the side of Disney. I know Donald Trump took the side of Disney. Mike Pence, all these candidates have taken the side of Disney. That's corporatism. Market economics is not just bowing down to woke corporations. When they're trying to change our society or change our laws, particularly with relating to children, not only do we have a right to fight back, we have a duty to fight back. And so I think that how I handled that is different than how some of those other people would have handled it.
That was Ron DeSantis last night on KCMO with Mark Levin. Now, you might say, well, Pete, what's wrong with the clip? There's nothing wrong with the clip. DeSantis laid out a great vision and highlighted a lot of his successes. What's wrong with the clip is that Mark Levin pitched him against Nikki Haley, two people who are polling at 10%. This is like, you know, the Raiders and the Broncos arguing about who should finish third place in the AFC West. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. And I want to care. Like, trust me, it'd be a lot better for me if, like, you know, Trump, DeSantis, Haley, if they were all like neck and neck in the 20s and, you know, battling for position. There's no story here right now. There's nothing to bring to the table on the conversation. Now you can say, hey, Iowa's months away. There's still time. Ground game's great, blah, blah, blah. Okay, maybe that's true. And you know what? If that ends up unfolding, if that happens, then of course our coverage will change and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But as we sit here at 7:42 on a Friday, you know, second day of fall, I'm not spending a lot of time on this one until the people involved show me that there's something to talk about here. John is in Kansas. What's up, John? Good morning.
Hey, Pete. As you know, I'm on the 2024 Kansas for Ron DeSantis official campaign. But my personal opinion, this next debate's not going to have Asa Hutchinson or Doug Burgum on it. So thanks for their participation awards. So, like you were saying, he really needs to dig into this Donald Trump versus Ron DeSantis thing. He really needs to reel him in. And honestly, he needs to get rid of the whole Ronald Reagan 11th commandment where you don't talk smack on other Republicans, but he needs to reel him in. But, like, I would have been the one that fired Fauci. Trump did not. I would have been the one sitting there vetoing the House and Senate budget because I would have balanced it. He just needs to go after him and just be like, I'm the true constitutionalist conservative here, not the populist conservative, because I am so great at my job that Donald Trump even moved to my state. That's how awesome I am. So if you want to upgrade to Donald Trump, you're going to vote for me. He needs to really just start laying into Donald Trump and take the gloves off.
All right, John. Thank you, man. I mean, that would have been a good plan 4 or 5 months ago. I just think it's too little, too late. It's like drawing up a game plan in a football game. The plan for the second half, when you're down 3 touchdowns, might have been a good plan to start the game, but now you're in the hole, and there's not a great way to dig out of it. I just think it's too little, too late. And you know what? Until proven otherwise, that's how I'm going to be looking at this thing. And I'm not saying that's good. I would have liked a robust primary. It would have been better for, I think, the party, the country. I would have preferred that. But I can't change the way things currently are right now, unfortunately. 913-408-7710. Mark Alford's going to be here at the top of the hour on KCMO. This whole government shutdown thing, how much is that actually going to play a factor here? We'll get to that with Mark at the top of the hour on KCMO. Meantime, things that I wish weren't true. Did Travis Kelce confirm that he is dating Taylor Swift? We've got the audio on what he had to say on a Red Friday. Coming up next, 7:45, Pete Mundo on KCMO. I'm liking this less and less every day. I had a message for Taylor Swift last week when I was on Kansas City Week in Review. I said, if she screws up the mojo of the last half decade for this team by breaking Travis Kelce's heart, we're going to have a problem here. Major problem. And Travis Kelce yesterday on the Pat McAfee show, he didn't confirm they were dating, but he at least made it very clear that there is an open line of communication between himself and Taylor Swift. Is that the best way to put it? Right?
Yeah, it seems like they're texting maybe.
Yeah, they're conversing. How often they're FaceTiming versus just a text message, I don't know. But here's what he said yesterday.
You hate this? You hate that this is happening, though?
Yeah.
You hate that this is happening?
No, I mean, it's life, baby. It's life. I threw it out there. I threw the ball in her court. And, I told her, maybe I've seen you rock the stage in Arrowhead. You might have to come see me rock the stage in Arrowhead and see which one's a little more lit. So we'll see what happens in the near future.
Dog. Travis! Hey!
All right now.
All right now. Hey, let's go.
All right, man.
We're talking power couple. The NFL's in the game. We appreciate the hell out of you. You're the man. Good luck with everything on the field and in the suite. Woo!
All right. That's Travis Kelce. Yeah, I threw the ball in his court. How about that? Playing it cool with the, biggest entertainment star in the world right now. Is that a fair assessment? Unless there's
absolutely
some new Korean boy band I don't know about. But I'm pretty sure Taylor Swift right now is the biggest entertainment icon on the planet. And Taylor Swift said, hey, coming out to Arrowhead. Now, I want to see Taylor Swift in Section 330, row 22, with the real fans at Arrowhead Stadium. I'm sure she'd be able to handle it. I think she'd be fine. But Travis Kelce, I got to give him credit for playing it cool like that. Hey, if you want to come out, I saw you light up Arrowhead. Now you got to see me light it up, baby.
My sources tell me she responded, been there, got the T-shirt. So I'm not sure she'll be there. Right, can you see her out there doing the chop?
Well, that's the thing. She's a little too woke, I think, to be doing the chop around Arrowhead. Mm-hmm. But, maybe he can knock get the woke out of her, right? It happens to people. It's the old saying. If you're a liberal at 20, you got no heart. What is it? If you're a liberal at 20, or if you're a conservative at 20, you have no heart. If you're a liberal at 40, you have no brain, right? Isn't that the old saying? Kind of once you settle down, you have family, you start paying taxes, and you realize what a sham the government is. So it adds up, and, Taylor Swift settles down, finds a real man like Travis Kelce, although the mustache is still throwing me off. I still think that's a bad look for him, but no one asked me. I guess if Taylor likes it, then whatever. But maybe this is kind of her moment to grow up a little bit, right? And realize how the rest of America feels. And she's chopping away.
Seems to be allergic to testosterone.
Yeah, that is a very Fair point.
Kind of oozes from Kelsey, so I'm not sure she'll get any honor there or not.
All I'll say is this. Whenever she comes to Arrowhead, if they jack around with the game plan to try to get Travis a touchdown and then point to her up in her suite and do that whole thing, blow her a kiss, that's going to piss me off.
I'm worried about the ticket prices on StubHub, dude.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Swifty's buying them up.
Yeah, that's true, too. And then no one's doing the chop because you got a bunch of wokesters suddenly in Arrowhead Stadium. Oh, what is this? Oh, my goodness, cultural appropriation. We don't want to deal with any of that. Oh, gosh, but that would be something. You're just sitting there one Sunday, and there's Jim Nantz and Tony Romo, and then, there's Taylor Swift in the suites with Brittany Mahomes. Unbelievable. We'll follow it. I just hope it doesn't mess up the mojo of this team. Speaking of things we're following, another city has sued Jackson County. Blue Springs last night becoming the third city to sue Jackson County over the tax assessments. So they put out a statement here. The mayor and the city council are authorizing legal action to ensure the residents of Blue Springs receive a fair and consistent process for the assessment of real property in compliance with state law. We feel it's necessary at this time to take action and represent the citizens of Blue Springs against these unfair assessments amid growing unresolved complaints. Good. So that's Lee's Summit. Combine that with Independence, and now Blue Springs. Now, Quentin Lucas was on the show yesterday, and he kind of, I don't know, he's staying away from this. He's not going to sue the county, it sounds like to me. He should, but he's not going to. I don't know why. I mean, I know that him and Frank White are not buddy-buddy, and that's the nicest way to put it, but I don't think he wants to cause more drama right now between the city and the county, especially with this Royals thing kind of out there lingering. And this, if Kansas City, Missouri did it, sued Jackson County, that would get the most attention of any of these lawsuits. And that might make John Sherman say, I don't know if I want to be doing business here for the next 30, 40 years. So I think that's part of it as well. But Blue Springs, welcome on board. Add them to the list. I hope that more of them go out there and do it and just continue to sue the absolute crap out of this county because they are royally hosing every single one of their taxpayers.
At the moment, Lee Summit has their own suit, and Blue Springs will join Independence.
Okay.
So that technically there's two at the moment.
Oh, boy. Okay.
Yes, two suits, three people.
Okay,
three parties.
That probably saves some attorneys' fees, which is always welcomed.
I don't know if there was a difference. I didn't read the Blue Springs Independence one, but I know Lee Summit also mentioned Gail McCann Beatty and Frank White Jr.
Okay.
Besides the county.
Yeah.
So that may be the one difference.
Well, you know what? The more the merrier as far as I'm concerned. Bring them all on board, all right?
Heard some good stuff on the phone. Maybe another municipality over there.
Good.
It starts with an R and ends with a town.
Okay. Come on in, Raytown. Let's go.
The water's just fine.
Yeah, we're going to put pressure on all these towns to just fire away with these lawsuits. Jump on board. The more, the merrier. It's time for these cities to stand up for their taxpayers. You have 54,000 people appealing these assessments. You're going to have people out in the streets in Jackson County. And the fact that Frank White and Gail McCann Beatty are going to get out of this thing unscathed is just unfathomable to me. But it's looking like that's the way this is going to go. Now, coming up, Mark Alford is going to be here on KCMO. We're going to get into, this whole government shutdown drama is mundane. I don't know if it's going to happen, but we'll ask him about whether or not it's going to happen, what it could mean, how it plays out. Mark Alford is coming up right after the news. Pete Mundo on a Friday on KCMO. Could be another 3.5 hours until we get more UAW plants striking. Of course, United Auto Workers Union. Few of those have been on strike since last Friday as they demand 40% pay hikes, 32-hour work weeks, and free ham sandwich every day. So that's right now, of course, ongoing. It's impacted the Fairfax GM plant here. 2,000 workers are temporarily laid off because the Wentzville, Missouri plant was one of those that went on strike, and they of course, fed parts and supplies to Fairfax here in Kansas. So it's impacting a lot of people. But what about those outside the industry? What about those small business owners, those mom-and-pop diners, restaurants that rely on these workers to show up, eat their food, and, spend money at their business? Well, Woke 41 Action News talked to a lady whose business is going to be impacted in a big way by the Fairfax plant temporarily shutting down. And, people don't talk enough about folks like this who are just trying to get by.
Mom, we got some more sweet tea over there?
Things are normal for now.
Thank you. Have a great day. Me tomorrow. Chicken fried chicken, smothered pork chops.
Emphasis on maybe.
We kind of just roll with what happened.
Roll with the punches.
Yeah, you have to. What else you gonna do?
Anna's BLD Bistro owner, Angelin Howell, says a huge chunk of her business comes from the auto workers and all the other industry in Fairfax that supports them.
12 years. 12 years. We've been here 12 good years.
With work shut down at GM, it'll shut down a part of her business too. She heard the news firsthand from one of her regulars.
She said, they worked us 10 good hours before they let us up out of there. They got all of the work out of us in one swipe.
Since the plant is technically idled, workers not technically on strike, there's no more paychecks coming down the line.
She said they weren't going to get paid. I was like, oh, that's a bad deal. Y'all need to do something, huh? Right? That's 51, 2, 3, and 4, ma'am. Thank you.
Which, of course, affects you, too.
Which affects me, too.
It's not always smooth sailing in the restaurant business, and Howell knows it. She's ridden those ups and downs. But ripples from a shutdown can quickly turn into waves. Ones Howell's got no choice but to ride out.
I don't know. We're going to see how it happens, see what's going on. I'll keep up with my little people and see how they doing.
Well, God bless Angelin Howell. She's not saying demanding some raise. She's not sitting there crying about poverty wages when you're offered a bump to, a median salary across the UAW of $82,000 a year. Factor in benefits, you're talking $150,000 a year. She's not doing that because she's a hardworking, all-American small business owner. She's just like, you know what I got to do? I got to figure out how to make it up. And I'm going to do it with a smile on my face. I'm not going to sit here and cry and moan and all these different things. I'm just going to try to keep hustling. I have 1,000 times the amount of respect for Angelin Howell, who runs, name of this place here, Anna's BLD Bistro, than I do Sean Fain, the guy who runs the UAW. And these are the kinds of people who get indirectly impacted by the greed of union mob bosses. And she doesn't have a choice, right? She doesn't have some ability to say, damn it, I give me more money. Gosh darn it, I'm worth more than you're paying me every hour. Give me some more money. Would you please? She's not doing that. How many thousands of Angelin Howells are in the communities where these plants are, where strikes are taking place or are being impacted, who no one's really talking about? I mean, credit to Woke 41 for doing this story. More credit to Angelin Howell to her approach to this. But these are, everyday Americans who don't have the ability of, some union guys trying to push around their power in Washington, D.C. with their politician friends to get what they want. They don't have the capability of doing that because they're just small businesses that, by the way, make this country run. And Angelin Howell, by the way, is probably not going to be in a position anytime soon to buy herself a $75,000 new pickup truck. She probably can't do that. And she's certainly probably not going to be able to do that now that her business is about to take a pretty big hit because 2,000 people are out of work at the GM Fairfax plant with no end in sight. These are the everyday Americans who also get impacted by this. And they don't get talked enough about. What about them, right? The people that are picking sides on this thing, they scream, oh, it's time to get our fair share. The billionaire profiteers with the Detroit Big Three. What about these people? The greed has resulted in them not allowing the businesses they're supposed to be helping to get their supposed fair shares. Anyone talk about that, or is that kind of just lost in the equation here because it's not politically convenient for certain individuals? We need to tell more stories like those from Angela Howell and make sure that those stories are not forgotten in this entire back and forth, because those, they play a big role, a very big role, and they should play a big role, by the way, in how the American economy gets impacted by strikes like this that are completely avoidable because a 20+% raise is sitting on the table. News coming up in a minute. 913-408-7710. We'll get to you and buy, sell, hold, all coming up. 8:35, happy Red Friday across Kansas City. Dark Friday.
AM or PM, yeah.
Yeah. Seriously,
right?
Man. Jeez. It is dark outside of Corporate Woods. My goodness. Literally, looks like 8:30 at night. Unbelievable. Hope your morning's off to a great start. So I am sitting here with sympathy in the UAW dispute for one group of people only, and that is the innocent small business owners like Anna's BLD Bistro in KCK that is now going to take a major hit because you got 2,000 workers here in town who aren't going to be going to work because of this strike, because apparently 20% is not a suitable pay raise, according to UAW leadership. And we played with you and for you before the break some of the commentary of Angela Howell, who's got this approach, and God bless her, she owns the place, of like, yeah, you know, it is what it is. This is tough. We're going to have to keep grinding. Like, that's America right there. That's a lady I can get behind and support. Woo! Not union leadership. And, you know, unfortunately, that's trickling down to a lot of people who are being impacted here in all this. And this is on the text line. Pete, I work at the Clay Como plant. I don't need a pay raise. I just give everyone a free truck. Yeah. Here's the thing. You give a 40% pay raise, that truck is going to be even less affordable. Who's out there buying new F-150s these days? You know? It was never really now, geez, might as well go full on and just get the Ferrari. It's crazy. 913-408-7710. Say you join us on KCMO. Don's in Independence. What's up there, Don?
Well, I feel for Angela, too. I've been a business owner for 40 years, and but I love her spirit, not feeling like she's going to be the one kicked down. She's going to grind. But at least she can raise her prices when this is all over, because they're going to be making more money, and things are going to be costing her more. She can raise prices with no guilt.
I love that, Donnie. I love that, my man. Have a great day. That is outstanding. Hey. Yep. She can raise her prices now on these folks, right? Hey, you got to make up for lost wages here at the restaurant. I don't know what you want us to do. Now, if you were wondering about the politics of all this, it's always political, these things, right? So next Wednesday is the next Republican debate. The Trumpster's not going. He's going to be with United Auto Workers union members. He's going to do a speech and a rally with a bunch of UAW folks in Michigan. You would think, I mean, Sean Fain, the guy who runs the UAW, he's the president of the operation. You would think he'd be excited about the fact that a presidential candidate wants to talk to his people, right? Skip a debate. He's the front runner for the nomination. He's been the president. You would think that Sean Fain would like that. I mean, a major presidential candidate coming out to support the guys and the gals in the UAW. No. Here's what Sean Fain wrote in a statement this week about Donald Trump's plans. Sean Fain, UAW president, in a statement, quote, "Every fiber of our union is being poured into fighting the billionaire class and an economy that enriches people like Donald Trump at the expense of workers. We can't keep electing millionaires and billionaires that don't have any understanding of what it is to live paycheck to paycheck and struggle to get by and expecting them to solve the problems of the working class." That is Sean Fain and a statement about Donald Trump showing up to the UAW next week. So who do you want running the country? You want a bunch of people like Bernie Sanders, who is getting kicked out of his commune, before he decided to get a government job in the late 70s, and he's been leeching off the taxpayer for the last 45 years, and now he owns 3 houses.
To be fair, Pete, one of the 2 is a timeshare.
Well, let our guy Dave Ramsey help you get out of that thing. Is that who you want? Joe Biden, who's been also leeching off the taxpayer for the better part of 40 to 45 years and is somehow, worth millions and millions of dollars on a $175,000 to $200,000 salary for most of that time, has a big old multi-million-dollar beach house and has a son as his bagman? Is that Sean Fain's idea of understanding the working man? No, you know what? You know who I want getting elected? And trust me, there's a bunch of losers on the right who get elected too. Sorry to say. But I want people who have grinded out the American dream and have lived it and have worked it and have run businesses and hired people and fired people and made budget cuts and made tough decisions. That's who I want. Whether or not you live paycheck to paycheck is kind of irrelevant to me. I don't know why that matters to Sean Fain. But here you have Trump coming to support his guys, and that's his response. That tells you all you need to know about who this guy is bought and paid by, who he really supports, what his real priorities are, and why he's in no way willing to call out how the policies of the people in charge right now have hurt his workers and have hurt the businesses that his workers work for. When the big 3 in Detroit are forced and being pushed in the direction of electric vehicles, whether their customers want it or not, they've got to invest billions of dollars back into that business. It's like the letter that we told you about yesterday. GM president wrote this letter in the Detroit Free Press, and he said, everyone's talking about these billions of dollars in profits. He said in the letter, he writes, we've made, I think it's 60 some odd billion dollars the last decade. And we've invested $70+ billion in things like research and development and trying to figure out how to get this EV thing off the ground. They are losing billions in the EV market. Now, of course, their hope is that in 50 to 100 years, or maybe less, it pays off for them. But they also are being pushed in this direction by the government. And Sean Fain never brings that up. That's going to cost a ton of jobs once the EV thing really takes off. It's much simpler to put together those vehicles. He never brings that up about his people and for his people. That's never a conversation that he has. And then, Trump's looking to show up and give a little speech, and can't have that. Don't want any part. No. We're good. We'll pass. If you missed it, this guy, Tony Toddy, he's a UAW Chapter 14 president in Toledo, Ohio. He was on Newsmax last night. Didn't go too well for him.
For that transition to EV, the federal government's helping through the Inflation Reduction Act to offset some of that. But this is a for-profit company and industry. And they're getting in and they want to be a part of EV so they could see the profits on the other side of it. When you look at the horse and carriage, right? The smart one said, hey, we're going to go over to the automobile because that's where the profits are going to go. Mm-hmm. And these corporations will be able to provide not only fell down because of the wind, not only investments into the future through EV, but they can pay their workers that put them in this profitable position, a fair wage.
That was Tony Toddy, local Chapter 14 UAW president in Toledo, Ohio. I love how he said there he fell over because of the wind. Yeah, because of the hot air coming out of your mouth, buddy. They just keep doing the same old fair wage, fair. What's fair? As was noted by the president of GM in this letter that was put out to the public yesterday. We're offering you wages that would create a median salary of $82,000 a year for 85% of the workers. In the zip codes that these plants are in, the median household income is $51,000. And then when you say what's fair, they don't want to define it. But apparently it's 40% pay hikes, 32-hour work weeks, and a free ham sandwich as well, every day, by the way. Only 4 days a week, though, because they only want to work 4 days a week. Must be nice. Buy, sell, hold. We do it every Friday morning. We'll get to that coming up. And then police chief in Kansas City, Missouri, Stacey Graves, she joined us very early this morning in the 6 a.m. hour. I want to play for you the most important part of what she said, top of the hour, 8:45, Pete Mundo on KCMO.